Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And in this case, we're honored to have with us one of our favorite people in the whole world, Barb Stegemann. She's spoken at our signature speaker series events in Memphis and in Nashville. She's got the 7 virtues, and we'll talk all about that and its ties to Sephora. She's got the best-selling book called The 7 Virtues of a Philosopher Queen. She's also the subject of an award-winning documentary, Perfume War. So we're going to have a lot of fun with Barb. So Barb, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I'm always great with you, Jeremy. I missed you already. I had such a nice time with you guys in Nashville. I want to move there. You know that. So we'll figure that one out after the show.
Well, when you talk about moving to Nashville, let's read off some of the things because you're from Canada. And so you've got the Entrepreneur of the Year Award, top 30 cool and fabulous Canadian entrepreneurs. So, I mean, that tells you right there just how much of a rock star you are.
It's always a good one. Be cool and
Absolutely.
fabulous.
Let's start with a little bit of your backstory because you've had a chance to be on Dragon's Den with it, which is the Shark Tank of Canada. So, I mean, you've got some really cool experiences leading to the 7 virtues, but give us a little bit of your background and kind of how you position that.
Yeah, great. I come from humble roots. I was raised by a single mom on assisted living, and through the goodness of neighbors and the kindness of teachers who had high expectations of me, I always felt I had the right to come to the banquet, and you had to work through some stuff to make sure I could get there. And nothing's really stopped me. So I think that's really, in a nutshell, why I'm able to do what I do. I've got nothing to lose. And I hope that anyone out there that's, taking risks realizes that, as long as you treat it like you've got nothing to lose, you'll be fine. The minute you're scared because you're clutching your last $5, then it's over. You've got to be willing to really take those risks and live fully. And not stay sort of afraid and stuck. When I get unstuck is really kind of how I've been able to go on Dragon's Den, which is terrifying. I mean, Kevin O'Leary's so mean, right? He's Mr. Wonderful, doesn't really get social enterprise. And so, it was terrifying. But you've got to have a mission bigger than you and you'll be fine, and just check your ego at the door and realize it's not your victory, it's not your loss. You're here in service to others, and with that you can do, share your gifts that you were given that no one else has. And I think that's really our most important responsibility, is when we recognize the gifts we have and they were given to us and no one else, that we can break through any barriers so that we can share them. And you're going to have barriers. The old expression, it's darkest before the dawn, is so true in everything. And it really has to be. You kind of, I tell young people, embrace the melancholy. When you're lost and you want a compass, you don't know which way, you're going to listen to your instincts, listen to your mentors, you'll be fine, right? So I think that's really how I've been able to do some wild stuff and have some successes and some near misses and some near closures and all those things that make you reflect and think and get back up on the horse. I think that's the most important lesson, is just get back up on the horse. Don't let anything stop you, right?
Absolutely. Well, you launched a social enterprise before that was even a buzzword. And so when you look at the 7 virtues, the spark really being your best friend who, had an unfortunate circumstance in Afghanistan. And so give a little bit of that nuance, because I think when you look at that moment, that's a very, heavy tragedy, and turning that into light, turning darkness into light, and really using the 7 virtues as an economic driver to create change in a lot of ways, is a powerful storyline. So give a little bit around that context.
Yeah, Jeremy, I love how you frame that, creating, light out of the darkness. And really that's what it's about. There's a lot of dark places on this earth, and we've got to shine light. And that's what we're here to do, not get chewed up by it. Well, my best friend who I met in university, Captain Trevor Green, he pushed me to row harder, to ask better questions, and just sort of squeeze the juice out of life. And such an incredible mentor. Wrote the book on the missing women in Vancouver before anyone noticed they were missing. Just a real champion of women's rights. And when he saw images of women being beaten in Afghanistan on the television, he was like, that's it, I'm going. He had been a reservist in the military, and he went as a CIMIC officer, which is to discuss how to bring clean drinking water and healthcare to the families of the village. And he was struck in the head with a Taliban axe. He wasn't supposed to make it through the night. We went on such a healing spiritual journey together. And I said in the hospital, I said, "You heal, I got this," because that's what you do for your best friend. And I realized I don't have this. I'm not a brave soldier. I'm not a world leader. And I thought, wait a second, if we could harness our buying power and our voting power, we could end this cycle of war and poverty. And, as citizens, we can't expect our brave military and our government to do all the heavy lifting alone. Where are we? So I wrote a book, The 7 Virtues of a Philosopher Queen, first, and then brought the thesis to life, dedicated to Trevor. First book ever to be sold in Sephora, which is kind of wild. And I brought the thesis to life when I read about farmers in Afghanistan. And the same people that attacked my best friend, the Taliban, were knocking over this gentleman, Abdullah Arsala's distillery. And I thought, that's it, I'm coming. I started buying his oils on my Visa card. The banks wouldn't give me a loan. And launched on International Women's Day, and just started, and didn't really know what I was doing, but that's okay in life. You don't have to be everything. You just find the right chemist, you find the right trademark lawyer, you find the right accountant, and you build your team of traveling musicians, and you're the maestro in where we need to go. And so I think that's really how I was able to create something that was really creating beauty where there was suffering. And then countries started coming to us, Haiti, Rwanda. We go wherever we're asked, and we buy their oils and tell a beautiful story of a community rather than all the negative that we hear. We got to show that there's beauty everywhere. There's good people, good human beings, absolutely everywhere on this planet, and they need a voice. And what better way to carry someone to a far off country than through the power of scent, and to transport you there, and you feel like you're in that country, and you see all the joy and feel it and experience it. So it's been really, it continues to be a wild ride, I must say. 13 years now. So
one of the things that I thought was really cool on your end, but it shows your heart, your dedication, your passion, is when you were talking about creating the perfumes. You said, some companies 3 or 4 iterations and we'll put it out. For you, it's like, no, I'm going to go 50 plus because I want to find a hero. I want to find who's going to be number one on that podium that you're going to fight for because you want it so bad. And if it, if it sells out, you're going to fight to try to find it. And I thought, it just shows the level of your dedication and commitment and passion to this. Give us a little teaser on the 7 virtues. One of the things that I mentioned to you is, Vanilla Woods is like the number 1 seller for our family, but, talk about the 7 virtues.
Yeah. So, well, like anything in life, when you're thrown a challenge, you've got to be excellent at being human. Not perfect, but excellent. And so for me, creating the perfumes is really about respecting my partner Sephora's shelf space, knowing there's a lineup of brands that want to be there, and making sure that what I put on the shelf moves to support them, all the staff they have, the community that they're in, all of those jobs. And we manufacture out of New York because the US is our biggest buyer. So it's out of always following our ethics. What's the right thing to do? And so with that, creating a perfume is all about making sure it's like an Olympian. I feel like this should be in everything we do. Whether you're having a cup of coffee, it has to be the most delicious cup of coffee. If it's not, take it back. And it's really, your day is about being excellent at being human, and also being able to ask yourself in any moment, what does life require of me right now in this moment, no matter where you are? If someone needs you, what is required of me right now in this moment? So other brands will, go 3 rounds and that's it, get to market, have a deadline. My merchants have gotten to know me and they work around me. Even so, I'll tell you a story. We signed off on our Cherry Ambition, which is launching in the fall. Signed off, purchase orders done, gone to the factory a week ago. I smelled it for the first time in Nashville. It was shipped into my hotel while I was speaking with you guys before the talk. I smelled it. Didn't spend the kind of time I should have spent with it. Finally got some time. We'd signed off on the PO. I'm smelling it. I'm like, I picked the wrong one. Now they're like Olympians on the podium. So, there's gold and silver and bronze, but there's number 4 that you never hear about. They were only 0.4 seconds away, or 0.4 seconds. You never hear about them. You want to be on the podium. So I actually spent the weekend toiling, had my whole family smell it, going around smelling their arms, everything. And we decided that it was a different one. We reached out to our partner. I was willing to sacrifice the whole batch if it had to be to get it right. They said, you know what? The ingredients are so similar. We just ordered. We're going to batch the one you wanted. Phew. But I do it even after the 11th hour. I'll still really, really focus on the one that is going to be the winner. And I really think that's what we have to do in our businesses, is to balance excellence and kindness, and not waste a moment of anyone's time, and really just create the most fantastic products that, it was funny because Elaine, who organized your event, told me she'd been a diehard big brand perfume wearer. And she was swapping out and wearing our Vanilla Woods now. And I got to tell you, when you can be an indie like me, and you can take on the big bad boys with their billboards and their airbrushed imagery of women, which isn't true or real, and you actually go out there and do something with your little mighty family from Canada, and you're outselling the big brands by just being excellent at being who you are. I hope it's an example to others. You don't have to have all the money in the world. You don't have to have the network, even though network is your net worth. You want to build that network. But even if you come from nothing like me, where, nobody invited us over to the chamber dinner when we were little, they would drop a Christmas hamper off and drive away. And my sister and I just wanted to come to the banquet. And so we started just showing up at the banquet. So anyone out there who feels they're being left out, I want you to show up. Just show up and be excellent at being human, and the rest will follow. And that's really how the Seven Virtues has, grown, and now has investors interested in it. And it's just it's always an exciting time though. Even when we were on death's door and all my friends were shutting down their businesses because there was no word for social enterprise. It was exciting then. It's exciting now. I think you have to always find the thrill in life and your journey, even during the lows. And, I gotta tell you one little thing. I wrote for a TV show years ago after my journalism degree, and this producer came from LA, and she said one thing to us that makes a great story. She said, "You're a nobody, you're a somebody. You're a nobody, you're a somebody. You're a nobody, you're a somebody. That is the cycle of life." And it's really that Frank Sinatra, that's life. You're up, you're down. That is life. So you can't miss the beats in the downs. That's actually where a lot of the soul searching and the learning comes from. So you can, push off and hit the highs. And I hope that is something that people can apply to their lives. I know I do. It's not easy. Sometimes it's not as fun, but it's the cycle of a good story. And any business, any life is all about a great story, and it's about your great story, really.
I think another neat element on a personal level is the fact, for those who are seeing this on the screen, you're wearing, hearing aids, devices. And so share a little bit of that, because I think when you look at, going through life's adversities and how they make you stronger, it changes your perspective. Give a little bit of that side.
Yeah, thank you. I think, Jeremy, all of the ways that we're made are our gifts. The ways that we're made. So I was made with a hearing impairment. That's how I was born. Didn't know I was actually till I was 21. I was always told that I was so intense because I think everyone else is hearing impaired, right? So I lean in and I think you can't hear me. I mean, you think that whatever you are is what everyone else is. And when I came to terms with the fact that and owned being intense, no one called me that anymore. And it was very interesting for me to realize that we're good at not judging other people, but we often judge ourselves. And the minute you embrace any of what makes you different or unique that maybe others might have interpreted while you were growing up as lesser than or as a negative, flip it into the positive. For me, even on Dragon's Den, 90% of communication is nonverbal. I can read a pitch. I can read if someone's sad. I can read if someone doesn't like me, and that's okay because 20% never will anyway. Who cares? So, I can see if someone's disingenuous. I can see if they're honest. I can see all of that while with my hearing impairment really gift. So that I've always thought of it as, in my adult years as a gift, but in my younger years, I found it really tough and I found it really hard. And so when you have these things that make you unique and special, it's really about finding the gift in it, and being able to read what's really happening is something that anyone with perfect hearing would never catch, because I've been reading body language my whole life to compensate. So I want others out there who may have something that is, they call them invisible disabilities, whether it's PTSD or a hearing impairment. They're invisible disabilities is the term, and turn it into a gift, turn it into empathy, sensitivity, find a way to navigate with it. I have a bit of PTSD. Captain Green taught me that I have some PTSD from my childhood. It was very it was tough. And, sometimes I would get anxious and think, if the boxes that were printed in the wrong color or the wrong color pink, oh my God, we're going back to the trailer, like in the back of my head. So I had to actually talk to my 8-year-old self and help her understand, we all have our different selves, that it's okay now. We're going to be all right. And to honor that 8-year-old self and make sure that she feels safe, because that voice crops up and it helps me understand if I'm getting a little worked up about something that's kind of manageable and I really shouldn't be getting that worked up. A couple of things have to happen. One, I have to be around people that love me for all my broken bits too. You can't just be with me when I win an award. If you're not with me the 360, if you're with me the 364 days that are great and you don't want to be with me on the 365th, then I don't want you the other 364, because it's going to be some tough days. And so for me, it's really important that the people around me understand my broken bits and don't get mad at me for some of my behaviors, because I can't change some of them. I just have to embrace them. So you can't just pick and choose and go, oh, wow, she can really pitch. She can win on Dragon's Den. It's because I'm reading body language. But, oh, she's really anxious because those boxes came in the wrong color. Gotta love both the same. You don't get to just pick the one on the podium only unless it's your business product. But as a human, we have to really love all of our broken bits, ourselves and the people around us. And I think that's really a way to create the boundaries for yourself so that you can be who you are, which is so unique and special, rather than trying to blend in like everyone else, right?
The other thing that I think is really interesting is you shared a story in Nashville around the power of scent, and the fact that there was a young lady who was studying for a test, and she would, use the perfume to kind of get in the mode. And then when she went in to take the test, she once again used the scent to almost recharge her mind, and she did really well. And so scent is powerful. So share a little bit of that science.
Yeah, scent is so powerful. It can be negative, it can be positive. It's how you wish to choose to use it. But scent and emotion are connected in the back of your brain, and they're very connected, so much so that if you're walking along one day and suddenly you're sad and you don't know why, you've likely smelled something that triggered a sad memory. At the same time, you can use that power to set your intentions at night, to use scent on what you want to be mindful of in your life. And the next day, if you're waffling or wavering, you just reapply that scent and you're back on track. It's like Pavlov's dogs. So for Captain Green and many of the soldiers, when he came back from Kandahar, the smell of the sandbox, they called Kandahar the sandbox, it upset him deeply. And so they had to remove the sandbox for his kids out of the backyard. A lot of soldiers, when they smell diesel, it reminds them of the tanks. So it's very important to know. For me, it was mold in our trailer. When I smell mold, it can't even get out of bed for a day and couldn't figure out why. And then once I understood why, if there's mold around me, say in an Airbnb bathroom or something, we'll either leave or light a candle. I know how to make sure that doesn't trigger me. The opposite side, you could use scent for positive, which is really powerful, as you were talking about, Jeremy. This woman reached out to me, and she was studying for her exam. She would apply the Vanilla Woods every time she was studying, but only while she was studying. And then when she went to the exam room, she brought the Vanilla Woods perfume with her. She made 100. It wasn't cheating. And, and there's a story that reminds me of this, that even though I don't agree with this business ethics, but that the Wolf of Wall Street. So what he used to do, even though I don't agree with his ethics, he took all of these investment barracuda guys, and what he would do is, if they were having a victory, he would have them smell a scent. It had to be the same one when they were in a victory mode. And then when they were going after another deal, they'd reapply that scent so that the olfactory sensation and the conditioning would move them into victory. That's how powerful scent is. And really, if a person is, you can slice open an orange. You can use whatever's in front of you that makes you happy. If you like lilacs, cut them from the tree, bring them in the house, and use that scent to continue to be mindful in your life. You can use perfume. It's preferable to use natural perfumes like ours, or organic oils for aromatherapy, because that's really what it is. But every night, set your intentions. I use sandalwood, my Santal Vanille, even though it's very calming. I use it to work out. If I'm not going down to the gym, I just reapply it, and my legs just start going down to my little gym in my basement with my free weights, because That's the only scent I use, and that's my reminder that it's time to go work out. So the power of that whole Pavlov's dogs conditioning and associating with scent is so untapped and just so just try it and it'll blow your mind. Really, it's something that I just continue to learn about.
I love it. I'm so glad we brought that up. So what's next? You've got so much on your plate. You've got a lot of exciting opportunities ahead. As you mentioned, you've got the new product launch in the fall, but what's next?
Well, now we're talking with investors, which is exciting. We're growing globally. We launch 2 perfume a year now instead of one. So, I like to go my 51 versions. So I'm doing them concurrently. We're going full fleet in Canada, absolutely every door full to shelf. That'll be the next wave for the US as well. We're already in 600 doors in the US, so it's a much bigger market for us than Canada. But it's exciting to see the growth. Australia, New Zealand, we launched this summer with Sephora, and I'm off to Paris next week for the first annual EU conference to meet, and that's where Sephora was created in France in 1969. So it's kind of exciting to go there and practice my French and just see where the journey takes me. And so it's great.
We'll wrap up with contact information. Where do we go to learn more about the 7 virtues, to follow you and your efforts? So website, social media, where do we go?
Yeah, you can go to the 7 virtues. It's the digit 7, so don't spell it out. On Instagram or TikTok. If you want to talk to me personally, it's Barb Stegemann, both on TikTok and Instagram. Fire off a note. And really, that's the best way to find us. Or go to YouTube and pull up some videos. You can see a few clips of past talks if you missed out on the Nashville or Memphis talks. If you want to see what everybody was enjoying, because it was a lovely audience. You all got my jokes, which is really, for me, one of the best parts, when you get my sense of humor.
Well, we love you. Like I said, you're one of our favorite people in the whole world.
Yay! I love
Barb,
you guys.
thank you for all you do. Thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate you. Appreciate that.